Good morning. Good morning. Happy Wednesday. Happy Wellness Wednesday. I hope you're having a fabulous morning already. Listen, y'all, as a girl who grew up in Michigan, as a Florida girl who grew up in Michigan, let me just tell you that this 29 degrees in the morning business, I'm a little over it. So if I look extra bundled up and you're thinking, Donna, you live in Florida, what's your problem? Well, now you know. This is our third morning in a row. Below freezing again we've had a lot of this. Now, some of you are up north. You really don't care about my whining because you're buried in snow. Good morning, Miss Sarah. But just, in case you're wondering, like I said, why I'm layered up, that's why. It's 29 degrees right now. Okay, so you know what else it is today? It is Scrubs Day. And if you've been following me for a while, you know I don't watch much TV. I have a couple of older shows that are my favorites that I put on when I'm going to sleep. But Scrubs Revival is back today. And I am telling you that I don't remember the last time I was this stinking excited about a television show. Y'all, Scrubs is one of my favorite shows of all times. The Revival reviews are getting fantastic ratings. And I am so stinking excited for 8 o'clock tonight. All right, that's enough of that. If you are just stumbling on my page, my name is Donna. I'm a mom, a nana, a girlfriend. I'm studying for my Master of Science in Clinical Mental Health Counseling, jazzerciser, runner. I do a lot of physical activity, well, as much as I can around grad school. Yes, the weather changes, Sarah, are giving whiplash. It's hopefully we're done at least. I think we're going to have at least one more cold front, but I'm hoping we're done at least with the freezing temperatures. That would be fabulous. And I know you prefer it colder too. But this is insanity. Okay. So, if you're just stumbling on my page, I wear a lot of different hats, but mostly I started Wellness Wednesday because I have been in a lifelong journey with anxiety and depression. I used to say battle when I first started this live series. I used to say battle, but some days it's a battle and some days it's not. So I prefer to say journey now. And I have learned over time that sharing information with each other about tips and tricks that work, that don't work, they really help other people. And that's why peer wisdom, like support groups, good morning, Miss Wendy. That's why peer wisdom works so well, because it's a lot easier to hear tips and tricks and tools from people that have lived experience versus individuals that are just, trained educationally. And that doesn't mean those individuals are not very smart, compassionate, empathetic, but it is just sometimes easier to hear information from someone who's tried it and been successful with it. Doesn't mean it's going to work for you. Does what I've experienced necessarily mean it's going to work for you? Absolutely not. Different things work for different people, but the more we share information, the more tools we have in our arsenal, right? Okay, so if you have been following me for a while, you know that last week, if you caught the video, we dug into intrusive thoughts, which I've touched on before, but I dug a little harder into last week. And I will drop the link to that video in the comments. But also in the last couple of episodes, I talked about changing my morning routine. And today I want to dig into a little bit more into why that's worth doing. And if you've been following me for a while, you may be like, Donna, sometimes I hear you say the same thing over and over again. Well, I don't know about you, but for me, I could hear the same thing 1,500 times. If you've ever been a parent, you know this about your children. You can say the same thing 1,500 times, and it's not going to click until that person, including yourself, including myself, is ready to hear it. So what I mean by, if you're a parent, you understand what I'm talking about is, as a child and as a parent, many times over the same things were repeated over and over again. And then all of a sudden my child or me would come to the parents and be like, oh, hey, you know what somebody said the other day? Blah, blah, blah. And it makes a lot of sense. And you're sitting there like, yeah, I haven't said that 1,800 times before. So the same thing works for adults. We are stubborn and we are just not ready to really comprehend something until we are personally ready to hear it. So if I do sound repetitive, that is why. In any case, we talk about wellness. We talk about mindset a lot under the umbrella of wellness, because a lot of wellness boils down to our mindset. But we're really going to touch on that today with morning routines. So how do you start your morning? Drop a comment. Let me know how that goes for you. Several years ago, I started making my bed every morning for an absolutely silly reason. And it was before that, that gentleman whose name always escapes me. He wrote a book called Make Your Bed, and he was, I think, a former Marine, and talked a lot about the Navy SEALs. I don't remember the details right now, which means I'm not doing the author justice, but it was an amazing book, very simple, very easy read. But I actually started making my bed every morning before that. Now, we're talking my 40s. I did not start making my bed every day until my 40s. The silly reason that I'm referring to is because I had a 1-bedroom apartment. My bedroom was a straight shot, smaller apartment. You don't like to close doors because it makes everything seem smaller. So this was 2016. 2016 is when I started making my bed. That was 10 years ago. I didn't want, I had this stranger coming into my house reluctantly. I love that, Sarah. You start your mornings reluctantly. Okay. And that is the case with a lot of people, including me sometimes, which is exactly what I'm talking about this morning. So this pest control person was coming over to my apartment, and I didn't want, for various reasons, I didn't want my bed to look unkempt. I didn't want to look like a slob. I didn't like the way it looked, the fact that you could see it straight from the front door. So I made my bed that morning, and when I saw how nice my bedroom looked and how much better my apartment looked, it just kind of stuck, and I started doing it every single day. But here's the thing about that is I started feeling early in the day, because I started doing it as soon as I got out of bed. And frankly, at the time, I was single. I was living alone. I didn't move that much. Good morning, Miss Kayla. So that one act was very, very easy to do. It only took me about 3 minutes tops in the morning. And I started my day feeling like I was accomplishing something already. And that was huge. Yes, it's cold, girl. Us Florida people, you northern friends, check on us because we know you're cold, but we're not used to this anymore. So I started making my bed, like I said, about 10 years ago. So I was in my 40s, 42, I guess, when I started making my bed every single day. Now, I don't remember exactly what my mornings looked like to give you like a timeline, okay? But since the advent, yes, it's, you get him trained, Kayla, get him trained. So I can tell you that a lot of times my mornings involve my phone. Like at that time, I was getting up about 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning, but I was probably spending 15 to 30 solid minutes in bed scrolling before I got up. Even though I was getting up, I was making my bed, I was jumping right into a workout. I was spending like 15 to 30 minutes a morning scrolling, just scrolling through Facebook, emails, whatever, you name it. So my mornings really always involve my phone. And over the past few years, I've seen an increase in teaching against that from some of my mentors. I have more than one, from some of my mentors. And a lot of it made sense. And then furthermore, and I know I'm kind of going in circles right now, but just bear with me because this'll come back around. Recently, I got a reading assignment, and that leans on my faith side. And since I got that reading assignment, my mornings have evolved further. Now, I'm not going to go into a lot of detail about the reading assignment. If you want to know more about that, shoot me a message. In any case, my mornings have evolved further since then. Often we don't give this a whole lot of thought. We don't give a whole lot of thought to our morning routine until something happens that draws attention to it or until we're out of that routine, right? But I got to tell you, I cannot tell you about a single day that the first thing I did was laugh when I opened my phone. No, I'm sure there were some, but none of those have stuck. What I can tell you about is others that weren't so great. So, and we'll get into that story in just a hot second. Why your first input of the day matters. And I want to be clear that screens, I'm not blaming screens on this. Screens are not the problem as much as reactive input. I hear the message. Wendy, I'm not sure I understand that question. But just bear with me. I'll get somewhere here. I promise. Sometimes I go in like a pig pen pattern before I get to the point. So the point here is that screens are not as much the problem. It is the reactive input versus the intentional direction. So for starters, checking social media or emails can expose you to unnecessary negativity right out of the gate in the morning. And this really, like I had mentors, drumming into my head, how you spend the first 20 to 30 minutes of your day matters. Don't pick up your phone, blah, blah, blah. And I didn't really understand it until I woke up one morning and I started my scroll. And there was an email that had come in kind of in the wee hours of the morning or late hours of the night after I'd gone to bed. And I wasn't even sitting up yet. And my head literally wanted to explode. Like it was negative. It was accusatory. And it went to a lot of people. This was when I was still working my previous job. And literally I felt like my head wanted to explode. So more than likely what was happening physiologically when I woke up before I even got out of bed is my blood pressure was going through the roof. My fight or flight response kicked in. I was angry and my feet hadn't even hit the floor yet. So that's kind of what I'm talking about here. It's that reactive input versus intentional direction. Because what do you suppose that did to my entire day? I started out my day on high alert immediately. I was stressed. My anxiety was ramped up. I was angry. I was in a rant on my way to the bathroom. It was really bad. And it was in that moment that it dawned on me what all of my mentors were talking about when they were talking about deciding how you start your day and not starting it with your phone, because you don't know what you're going to get when you open that up. Now, some people have apps they get into that are motivational, and that's all fine. Again, I'm not saying screens are the problem. I'm saying it's our reactive versus intentional input, or our reactive versus intentional start to the day. So the problem with things like social media, emails, etc., is that it can expose you to negativity right out of the gate. Like that morning email I'm talking about. And that wasn't the only one. That was just like the worst one. Breaking news, etc., things that occurred overnight that you didn't know anything about or since the last time you picked up your phone. Maybe negative text messages from somebody. So how I've gotten around that is I have the important people that might have an emergency that I need to know about on emergency bypass. And yes, I'm still using my phone as an alarm, but as soon as I shut off the alarm, I put it back down. And I've been known, even this morning, to start opening apps, and then I'm like, no. The only app I look at in the morning is my sleep stats from my watch overnight at this point. So a lifestyle article by Camilla Foster reinforces what I just said about the starting the day with negativity right out of the gate. But then she adds to it, because that initial screen exposure first thing in the morning, it impacts your cognition and it impacts your brain functioning. She says when you wake up, your brain is in a state called sleep inertia. I think we've heard of that before, but only in reference to like if our limbs feel like they're glued to the bed, really heavy, whatever. It's a groggy transition between sleep and wakefulness, and it's a delicate period. So when you're pushing those cognitive functions before they're fully restored, you're basically flooding and overstimulating your prefrontal cortex, which impacts how you are going. It shortens your transition from sleep to wake, and it impacts how you're going to respond to your entire day. It also increases eye strain. Spending that first 15 to 30 minutes doom scrolling can kind of start the day with procrastination. She talks about disrupting your sleep cycle, again, impacting your mood for the same reason I already talked about. There's a lot there. And so the point here is about being intentional with the first, anywhere, depending on who you talk to, there's different schools of thought, anywhere from the first 10 to 60 minutes of your day. So the bottom line is that first input shapes the state of your nervous system. And how your nervous system is going to perform throughout the day. And also that first hour, are you accepting new patients? Sarah, you're so funny. You can reach out to me anytime. But the bottom line is that that is also the time when your brain is the most programmable. So all of that barrage of information, of overstimulation, and again, if it's all great, that's wonderful and it can set a great tone for your day. But if we're talking about social media and emails and news updates and things like that, it's rarely ever all great. So it really boils down to how we choose to spend that first anywhere from 10 to 60 minutes, depending on the different schools of thought. So what's working for me right now? And again, let me reiterate, what's working for me may not work for everybody else. My phone is still my alarm. And, my boyfriend will have lots to say about snooze. That's something I've been struggling with a little bit lately. And there are some suggestions for how to fix that too. I just haven't taken them yet. So snooze is sometimes a problem. I only hit it once this morning. I also have a second text alarm. I set a lot of alarms because I'm 52 and I forget a lot of things. But I have a second text alarm, and that text alarm causes me to look at my phone again and open my texting app, because the purpose of that alarm is to text my daughter in the morning with a message for my grandkids, hopefully to help them have a great start to their day, let them know I love them, etc. But then my phone goes back down, unless I'm looking at my watch app. Yes, I know. But not opening any of those apps, not looking at any notifications, it does two things for me. It helps me to learn how to ignore those notifications, because sometimes I am too responsive. And then I get angry when people aren't as responsive to me. So I know this about myself, and so I'm learning to desensitize myself to those notifications. But I am trying to wake up at pretty much the same time every day, and I've been doing that for years. I find that if I get too much sleep, it has a far worse impact on me than if I don't get enough. So I kind of need to regulate my sleep. So I try to wake up at the same time every morning or close to it. I start my day with prayer and gratitude. I am a woman of faith. Whatever your beliefs are, that's up to you. Universe, Buddha, yourself, whatever that looks like for you. Starting the day with gratitude is huge. Being thankful for what you have. So one of the most recent habits I started was, again, the mentors and the people I look up to were stressing starting your day with gratitude. And I am a very grateful person. But in the morning when I wake up, if I'm naming 3 specific things that I'm grateful for, and I'm trying to make them different every day and not based necessarily on material things, it makes a tremendous difference. And oftentimes it has me giggling, because it might look like, oh, I'm so grateful for my boyfriend, even when he's snoring like crazy right now. So a lot of times this will start me out giggling. And that's been huge. So prayer and gratitude for me before my feet hit the floor, it has been a big game changer. Of course, making my bed, brushing my teeth. I actually meant to look this up, but I had read, I have a little bit of stomach trouble off and on. I have sensitive stomach. I had read years ago that brushing your teeth first thing in the morning before you consume anything gets rid of bacteria that's built up in the mouth overnight, keeps you from washing in your stomach. I don't remember the science behind it, and I forgot to look it up, but I remember that that's why I started brushing my teeth first thing in the morning before I eat anything, drink anything, any of it. So that's one of my routines. And then a workout or a shower, one of the two. Depends on what my day is going to look like. So that changes from day to day. This morning, obviously, I wasn't doing a workout before my 7 a.m. live. So shower it was. Those usually include, good morning, Miss Chanel. Those usually include devotions or motivational podcasts or whatever. A lot of times I listen to the devotion first, whether it's during my warm-up walk or during my shower. Yes, I have a shower speaker. Sorry for the visuals. And then a lot of times my cool down walk ends with some kind of a motivational video on YouTube or something of that nature. And then that reading assignment I referred to earlier that I'm not going to dig too much into details. Again, you can message me separately for that if you want. Is reading a little bit in my Bible each morning and writing out my goals, gratitudes, and affirmations, which has actually for me basically become more like written prayer than goals and affirmations, but whatever works. It can be whatever you want. If journaling what you were dreaming about last night works for you, make it part of your morning routine. And then the next thing I do generally is set up my planner, block out my planner for the day, start my to-do lists. I'm not sure what you mean if you need one to like a morning routine, a reading assignment. What are we talking about here, Chanel? You'll have to expand on that for me. So that's what's working for me. Again, cannot reiterate enough, what works for me may not work the same for somebody else. You could take little tidbits of this and start your own routine and modify as you need it. So the most popular suggestions for change are not actually, a lot of them aren't that different. Shower speaker, they're fantastic. I love them. Yes, you do, Chanel. I have a lot of different lists. I looked at a lot of different lists when I was getting ready for this Wellness Wednesday to see what the most common themes were for how to start changing your morning routine for the better, to kind of stay away from that phone, that screen, that newspaper, whatever it is, for the first half hour to 60 minutes. The first suggestion, and one I probably need to listen to, is get a different alarm. Leave your phone charging out of the bedroom. Don't put it in your bedroom. This would also help with hitting that snooze button. More on that later. And I do remember when I was a kid that the only alarm clock in the house was on top of the refrigerator. It was that old school alarm clock that was like, You guys know what I'm talking about. If you're close to my age, you know what I'm talking about. So it was a digital alarm clock that sat on top of the refrigerator. And my task was to shut it off before it woke my baby brother up. Now that was no small feat because it was across the house and on top of the refrigerator. It literally emanated through the house. But I got so good at this that I started getting up before the alarm went off. So most of the time I was either at the refrigerator or halfway to it when it would start going off. And then I would be in a dead run. Probably still not an ideal way to wake up, just for the record. Talk about jolting yourself awake. In any case, get a different alarm that's not digital. Leave your phone out of the room. That is one of the top recommendations. I'm not quite there yet, but stay tuned because it may happen yet. Same wake up time every day, whatever time that is. So just to be clear, if you're working night shift, I'm not referring to just morning. Whatever your wake up time is, the more consistent it is, the better you are going to sleep and the more likely you are to choose how your day starts. So whatever time that is, same wake up time each day, really shoot for that. And a similar bedtime too. Step outside, get light, or watch the sunrise or the sunset if you're on night shift, and breathe in nature. There's huge benefits here for your melatonin, your sleep cycles, and also just to help you feel more grateful. Meditation is often used by a lot of people, a lot of very successful people. You define success, that's up to you, different schools of thought. To quiet your mind and create presence in the day before the day starts. And in my case, again, just like my goals, my written goals and affirmations, meditation often just looks like an extension of prayer for me, but your beliefs and your personal habits are yours. And I'm sure that you can modify accordingly. You can find a way that these apply in your unique situation. Again, I talked about, and this is one of the top things, is pray or read or practice gratitude. I have an article from a website called thegoodtrade.com that actually lists 99 different things that you can implement to start your own morning routine. Okay, so the few that I listed off, or that I'm listing off here, the possibilities are endless. You can literally tailor this to your needs, and you can literally throw, 99 plus different spaghetti noodles at the wall and see what sticks for you. Swapping your news for positive broadcasts, that's huge. If you must open the phone because that just is your go-to, grab an app that gives you positive affirmations or that gives you motivational things, or instead of watching the news or reading the paper, listen to a motivational podcast. And then stretching, breathing, working out, meditation, drink coffee, whatever, choose one thing at a time. That is huge also, because we spend our days with to quote The Good Trade, 99 windows open. We have 99 tabs open in our brains all the time. So if we can start that first 30 to 60 minutes of the day with just one tab open, where we're focusing and we're being present in whatever we're doing, whether it's, talking to our coffee cup, the coffee pot, that's me, 1 scoop, 2 scoops, and a pinch to grow an inch. Don't ask me why I do that. It's something new that just kind of materialized. So again, whatever you're doing, try one thing at a time first thing in the morning. Stretch, just because we are such in a habit of watching something or listening to something or being on a Teams call while we're playing with our phone and scrolling through stuff and answering emails. The whole day is full of doing a whole lot of things at once. So if we can start the day with just one thing at a time and taking deep breaths and being present in the moment, like this coffee tastes fantastic, and that's really all we're thinking about, or I'm so thankful to be up to see this beautiful sunrise, or to get my prayers and my reading done early, whatever that looks like for you. If you can focus on just one thing at a time to start the day, you're moving into the day with more control and less stress. And guess what that means? That means you are running the day, not the other way around. And that's really the goal here. So, and this is also recommended for children too. A lot more children are spending a lot more time on screens. I do know some mothers, including my daughter, who have very limited screen time for children. But here's the deal. When you're eliminating screen time in the morning or reducing it for the kids and for yourself, it creates more attention for them from you, more focused attention. Yes, I love that, Wendy. Now you've got the why. That's fantastic. I told you if you just stuck with my little circles for a few minutes, I would get there. So for kids, when you're not on your screen and they're not on a screen, that creates more focused attention for them, from them to you, from you to them. And it also reduces tantrums. It reduces emotional dysregulation, which reduces tantrums. And it creates an opportunity for more focused attention on their part throughout the day, including at school too. We have to remember that kids, they watch everything we do. That's why do as I say, not as I do doesn't work, because they're watching our habits and our patterns, not listening to our words. Something that sometimes as we get older, we start paying more attention to words than patterns, and that's kind of where we get screwed up. But kids, they're watching us all the time. And they borrow our habits, whether those habits are peace or chaos. That's the truth. So we have to remember that. So, again, I've got 99 ways to start your morning, an article I'm going to drop in the comments. I'm going to drop last week's video. I want you to remember these things. First of all, I want to challenge you today. That was a lot of information. I listed off a lot of things. Do I expect you, or should you expect yourself, to revamp your entire morning right out of the gate, starting now? No, absolutely not. Again, I always say this, Rome wasn't built in a day. We didn't get where we are in a day, whether that's in a negative place, a positive place, whatever. It didn't happen overnight, and change doesn't happen overnight either. So my challenge to you is this. Pick one thing that I talked about, or one thing in this list I'm going to drop in the comments. Pick one thing to implement. And just notice the differences for the next week, good or bad. Whatever it is you choose, whether it's to make your bed every morning, whether it's to not touch your phone for an hour, whatever that looks like for you, prayers, gratitude, savoring your first cup of coffee, whatever it is, choose one new thing to implement this week. I love when people stress, when mentors, when counselors, life coaches, when they stress, add something. Don't try taking something away. Try adding things, because if you add enough good things, a lot of times you lose room for those bad habits, right? So, my challenge again to you is to pick one new thing to implement for a week. And notice the differences, good or bad. If you want to drop what you've noticed in the comments, shoot me a message, whatever, that's great. But I would love to hear if you notice differences once you start to implement those slightly more positive habits in the morning, first thing in the morning. So, and then finally, as I wrap up, I want you to remember these things. Can't stress it enough. What works for me may not work for you, and vice versa. It's like throwing spaghetti noodles at the wall. And seeing what sticks. But the more we share what does work for us, or why we think something didn't work for us, the more information it is for somebody that's struggling and lost and looking for some place to start, right? And the more we can inspire people who want to start but are afraid to. That's really what this is all about, is inspiring others and lifting each other up. So also remember that, again, this has nothing to do with productivity. This is about direction before distraction. And how we start the day impacts how we move through the day or how it moves through us. We get to pick, believe it or not. We have a lot more control than we think we do. And again, we're not talking hours. The recommendation from most experts is 30 to 60 minutes, but some say as little as just controlling that first 10 to 20 minutes of your day can make all of the difference. So I hope you found this helpful. I'm going to wrap it up now. If you did find it helpful, please share. If you have topics you'd like to see me cover in the future, message me, drop a comment, and let me know if you do the challenge, if you implement one small change in your morning. Let me know what you noticed, good or bad, after about a week. We do this one thing at a time. We can't revamp the whole morning routine right out of the gate. Some people can, and that's impressive. But most of us, we got to take baby steps and small bites, and that's okay. All right. If you love this, again, share. I will have the video up on YouTube within an hour, and I'll drop the YouTube channel link. So again, if you're just stumbling on my page and you've missed most of my previous Wellness Wednesdays and you want to catch up, they're on YouTube, on demand, and that's all I've got for today. So I hope you find a way to run your day instead of letting your day run you. And until next Wednesday, have a fabulous day and be well. Bye.